or something that can simulate that. Since some of them are touchscreen, there has to be something that switch from bag to vent.
Okay. It doesn't have to be that mechanical switch. It can be both.
I think so. I haven't seen one of those, but I'm pretty sure that we're getting there.
Okay.
All right. 2, open the patient Y. Is that
This is the patient Y, yeah. So you just want to make sure that it's not up against this, so that it's open to atmosphere.
Calibrate, remove, reinsert latch flow sensors.
Yeah. So these are going to be where your flow sensors are kept. So there's a little latch here. So you want to take this out. This one doesn't have the... Sometimes it has a little O2 cell that you need to untwist and open to air, and then that's a separate check that you do to calibrate the oxygen sensor. With this machine, you just take it out, open it to air, and then you put it back in. It can be a little tricky to put back. If you want to try, I'll let you give it a shot. You just have to line this up with the thing here. There's like, this part's the hardest. You just need to line it up. And then you close the latch, the green latch there.
You all will get a chance to do this, okay? So I will say, because it's so difficult sometimes to do that, like it takes time. Usually when I open it, if you just pop it and just pull it back just a little bit, you know when you have you moved it, because the signs will come. See, you don't have to take it out all the way, because that sometimes, like if you're late, I try not to be late because I hate rushing. But if you are and you fumble with this, it takes a good minute to get it in there, because you know when you're rushing, that's when everything slows down. So like I usually just take it out like that, just enough for those like forms to come on, and then you just push it back. You don't have to line it up, and it's just already lined up, right? And then just close it. Okay.
Let's start. This.
Yeah.
So your first time you're in your room checking your machine, when it's doing this, almost all of you will just stand there looking at it, right? Because you're looking at it. That's what you do. But as you do this more often, when it's doing that, because it'll beep, you hear it beep, you turn around and do other things. Like you drop your medications, you set up your airway and stuff like that, right? So it tells you that that part is done. And then you turn around again and beep and follow the prompts, right?
So make sure the bellows are fully collapsed.
Yeah.
So who wants to say what about? Yes, those are the bellows.
And then occlude the patient Y. How do you occlude it?
There's a dead end spot on the side.
And select continue.
This is the longest one when it's doing this check. So this is really when you turn around, love things. Because it's amazing how long this procedure is when you're new and doing it for the first time. Even drawing up medications, you're gonna the entire time. So something that would normally, when you start doing it, take you 10 minutes, and she'll take you 30 minutes, and you're like, how the heck is it 30 minutes already? Is that right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, what just happened here, right? So just when it's doing that, the first time, I'm gonna say this 1,000 times, you're still gonna stand and look at it. But as time progresses, you start turning around and doing other things. Because there are a whole lot of other things you have to do to get your room ready for the patient, right? So it'll run through its test, and it'll let you know if there's a leak or anything. Sometimes there will be a leak, and then I'll show you all the different places where you can try to fix it. But it'll let you know there's a leak. It just doesn't tell you where the leak is. So you have to figure out where the leak is. Okay? But there are only so many places you can have a leak, okay? Eventually it passes. You fix it. If it doesn't get fixed, then you call Francie and try not to cry, and it's already 5 minutes before you're supposed to come back and the machine is doing this.
Part of the 24-hour check or the every case check?
Oh,
24 hours.
24 hours.
Yes. Okay, got it.
Good Lord,
We'll show you on this machine, there's a circuit test that you have to do in between each case. And you can do it automatic, and then there's a way to do it manually as well for machines that don't have the automatic check.
So
Yes.
right now, which part of the machine is it checking?
So on the older machines, you would be doing this. But thank goodness for the new machine, it does it on its own. It's checking the breathing system, the
Okay.
internal system of the machine. It's checking that there's no leak, that the flow sensors are working well. It's telling us there's no NTO pressure because we don't have NTO pipe pressure in this room. Sometimes I think there's a room here in Fairfax where it doesn't have NTO as well. Or if you go, you wouldn't go to GE at Fairfax. It's very efficiency are super sleeping. Have you been to GE at Fairfax? No. They're super. We have like 10 different places that we do anesthesia at Fairfax, right? We have the main OR and like 9 other different places. You guys almost would be men OR, women's, maybe EP once in a while you will, and CVOR if you come and get parts. That's where you go, right?
I did my hearts at Mary Washington.
Okay.
And AHC.
Okay. But you can do hearts here as well. So those are the 4 places really where you go. The other places you won't go as a student. When I was a student, because I knew I was going to come work here, they let me go to those places like the tail end because once you get closer to graduating, you could request a site, and if you know where you're going to work, it behooves you to go to that site. That way you could become more acclimated with the way things are, right? Okay, so it's telling us there's no nitrous pressure because there's no nitrous pipeline pressure. When it's doing the check, it's doing it from the pipeline. It's not doing it from the O2 cylinders in the back. Okay.
And this is what
Yes, yes. So they're all color coded. You guys, you have read that part. Okay. All right. So that's why it's telling us that. So if you're doing a check and it says that, and you know you don't have nitrous, just hit accept.
So what if it was like loose? How would you get up there and fix it?
Okay, so we'll go through those as well because did you read about D's and P's yet? All right, good. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Diameter.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Francine. Yes. I never, even as a student, I never touched them.
Okay.
Because they don't want you to touch them.
Oh.
Okay? So don't go to people's places, release the news. Okay? Ignore that part of your check. Okay? Alright. So if it fails, if you're off, well, if the oxygen fails, it just won't go through. But when that fails, just hit accept. If you know that, a lot of people I don't use nitrous, but we'll go over that later for personal reasons. But yeah, just accept that and then we'll go through the next part. So go ahead.
Okay, so 1, occlude the patient Y, so just leave it.
Yep.
Set the bag vent switch to bag. Set APL valve halfway between 30 and 70. How do I know?
Turn it the other way. Other way. Keep going.
Oh, I see now. Okay. It's on the side.
Oh, okay. So did you feel anything when you turned that?
Not really. I think I'm just nervous too.
Okay. So turn it, open it all the way again. And then turn it and tell me when you feel a change. Do you feel a change?
Not really. A little bit.
A little bit.
A little, actually.
Yes.
I feel a little
Okay.
resistance here, I guess.
We'll talk about that as well, okay?
Alright, so APL between 30 and 70. Select start, and the test runs automatically. Start.
There you go. So it tells you again how long it's going to be. And during that time, do things. The first time you won't do things. Second time you probably won't do things. Eventually you'll do things during that time, okay?
So why would I feel that?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that when we go through all the systems of the machine. You all will touch it so you can feel what you felt, okay? Yes. Please press it. I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. So yes, thank you very much.
Can you remind that one more time? What is the APL valve for?
It stands for adjustable pressure limit, and it helps to divert gas to the scavenging or pressurize the system when you're trying to manually ventilate the patient. So we can go through that in a little bit more detail as well.
As we go through the machine, we'll talk about all of that, okay? Because we go from like the different pressure systems all the way to where you get gas to the patient. Okay.
Alright. Full test reminders. Go through all this as well.
Yeah.
Alright, set the bag vent switch to bag, which it is. Set the APL valve to minimum. Flush the circuit with O2. Is that
You
okay?
don't have to do that. Yeah, but yes, that's where you do that. Okay. You don't have to do that.
Check patient suction. Do I make
Yes,
sure
that is
it's-
the suction. We'll check that later. Just read through the prompts and then we'll go through, okay?
Check emergency drugs, check manual resuscitation equipment, check intubation equipment, select start case, check control and alarm settings.
Okay. So that's your machine check. You just did the machine check, right?
Okay.
What? Sorry, Lauren, go ahead. Otherwise, I
What
will
were you
stop
gonna
something. So, usually when you're done with this, right, you take this up, connect this to your mask, and you attach it wherever is comfortable for you, right? There's usually a Christmas tree here, so you attach it to the bed, right? And then you set this to be ready to give anesthesia to your patient, right? Whatever modes or settings you want to use for the machine, right? Okay, so that's your basic machine check. You've touched it. So, the anesthesia machine. 3 pressure systems on the machine, right? I'll let Lauren do.
Does anyone remember what the 3 pressure systems are? High pressure system, where does that start at? Anyone remember? E-cylinders, yep, to the pressure gauge, yep. And then there's a pressure regulator as well that downgrades that pressure and gets it into the intermediate system. Does anyone remember what's included in the intermediate system? So that's gonna go, flow meters, yeah, are gonna be low. So intermediate is gonna be from that pressure regulator all the way to the flow meter valves. If you wanna add anything, if I missed
And
anything.
pipeline. So, the high pressure system, right, is basically the cylinders to the handling your piping. Yeah? The pressure in the cylinder is based on the volume in the cylinder, right? Remember pressure volume relationship, right? So, when you do your machine check, at certain places, when you check the cylinder, you never have to open it. Sorry, do you mind flipping your badge? Like the light is reflected off of it and it's in my eyes. You remember you have that wrench in the back that opens and closes the cylinder, right? The pressure, David, it's still in my eye.
Just like putting your mask
Now it's gonna be in your eye.
Yeah, probably.
Thank you.
So in the back of the machine you have the wrench, right? Open and close the cylinder, right? So the cylinder itself is high pressure because it's based on the volume in the cylinder pressure, right? Until it gets to the regulator, right? And then the pressure gets downgraded at the regulator, right? So when you go to places where the machine's connected and you check the machine, the cylinder, as soon as the machine, you check the cylinder, you always want to make sure you turn it off again, right? Because the machine will preferentially get oxygen from the pipeline. Because
Does anybody know
why?
why?
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Because the pressure in the pipeline is higher than the pressure in the cylinders after it passes through this a pressure regulator. So it's going to be like 45 in the cylinder and 15 in the pipeline. And that's so the gas, if you accidentally forget to turn off your cylinder, the gas will not leak out of the cylinder.
It will not unless something happens, right? If you accidentally forget to turn up the cylinder, you leave it open. Typically the machine will still pull from the pipeline because the pipeline is, like she said, higher than the cylinder after it comes to the regulator, right? Unless something happens. What will happen though?
Alarm?
An alarm will happen when it happens, but something happens before the alarm happens. Say you lose pipeline pressure, right? For whatever reason, say that got disconnected, right? Somehow, or back wherever we store all the oxygen, I don't know where it stores it. Something got disconnected by someone. You're not gonna know. You will not know if the oxygen is left open. Because the machine will then switch and pull oxygen from the cylinder in the back of the machine, right? Because it's gonna get it wherever it can until it doesn't have anymore, right? Then the alarm will go off to tell you, oh, there's no oxygen. But by then, here's the facts. We always have an extra cylinder in the room. Always, right? So that should be part of your check in the morning. There's gonna be a cylinder in the back of the machine, yes. We always want to make sure there's an extra one in the room. A as well. Okay, you want to make sure it's full, or as full as possible. It might not be full, might be halfway, but enough to where you're comfortable with it, right? Because when this alarms, if the cylinder was open, that means it's out, right? So that will be the time when that alarm will come on. Okay? Sorry.
No, you're fine. So yeah, part of your check will be opening the cylinders and checking their pressure. And on this machine, you can see the pressure will read next to the cylinder. So the O2, the PSI is 1590, air is 167. And then this is your pipeline pressure. So 5447. So like we said, the pipeline should be around 50. This is measuring the pressure inside the tank, and it's only accurate if you open it. So right now, it should be closed, and so it might just be reading what was done before, and that will slowly downgrade. So don't trust this number, do your own check. Does anyone remember what the pressure should be in the cylinders, in the oxygen?
2,000
2,000.
for oxygen.
Yeah.
And
What about
1,900 for
for air? Yeah, it's about the same, like 10 with the 2,000. And then what about on nitrous? Remember?
That's the tricky one.
Yeah.
It's a liquid. So.
Why is it a liquid? I don't tell you that. It's
Because of pressure? I don't know.
Yeah,
You
because
need
of the
higher
critical-
pressure for it in order to,
Be vaporized.
yeah.
Yes. Good. Okay, so do you remember what it is?
2,200?
No.
It's 740. It's going to be less because it's a liquid. And then how about liters? If you guys go over that, how many liters of oxygen are stored in a full tank?
600 for
660.
oxygen, 660 for oxygen, and 600 for air.
645.
That's okay. We're not judging at all.
And then how about for nitrous? So since it's a liquid, there's going to be a lot more. It's 1590
So for the nitrous, if the pressure ever drops below 745, your tank is almost empty, right? Because it has used up all the liquid in it, and now it's just gas, and that's about 200 something in that cylinder at that point. So you change it at that time. There's something else. Oh, when you give answers, when they ask you this in clinical, never give a solid number, right? Give them a range. Because all the books will tell you different numbers. It depends on whatever that person just read. Because sometimes, they forget stuff, and we forget stuff, and we read stuff, right? And so I go and I read Morgan McHale, and it tells me 2,000. If you tell me 2,200, no, it's not 2,200, it's 2,000. That's what Morgan McHale just told me. So if you tell me between 1,900 and 2,200, you're right. You're right. Never give them don't tell them this is what it is. Even though you know what it is. Like, pick a number that's like 50 above and 50 below. Just give them a range. You will save yourself a whole lot of grief. Because they're going to ask you, especially your first few months in clinical, they will ask you. They will ask you, they'll ask you, I'll ask you. Okay? Not just your first few months. If you're doing something like a kidney with me, I will ask you stuff. I will ask you stuff about the case because you should have read about it, right? Otherwise, why are you coming, right? Okay.
So then the last thing with the cylinders I wanted to mention is the only accurate way to know how much is in there is by weight. Like we said, once you start to see a drop in pressure, then you're already 3/4 of the way empty. So that, I remember that might have been a question on one of our tests.
Yeah, for nitrous.
All right, so that's the high pressure system, and then you move on to the intermediate system. So that starts at those pressure regulators and goes to the flow meter valves, and it includes the oxygen flush, it includes your vaporizers, no, the vaporizer is low pressure. It includes like the pipeline, your fail-safe, what else? Anything else important?
No, that's
about it. And then your low pressure system is going to start at the flow meters, and that's going to go to your circle system, to the breathing circuit. So let's see.
So what if I know you haven't had this lecture, so just indulge me, okay? So sometimes you get so looking at the machine now, right? I guess we should. So we talked about the back already. Do you guys want to see what the back looks like? So go ahead and talk all about it. Yeah. So your pipeline. Let me see. Okay.